Hello, everybody.
Hi there.
Welcome. This is the Real Football Fans of New Jersey, episode 203. And obviously, we are going to bring you the best in the world of football and housewives, but this is definitely a very draft heavy episode tonight. We had the NFL draft this past Thursday, so much to talk about in regards to that. We're going to dive into our new players on the New York Giants. We're going to dive into all the other teams and all the other picks. And like I said, of course, giving you the best in housewives as well. Kate, I know we're very excited for this one. I'm excited to hear your thoughts and everything that you're thinking. We did want to ask you guys to send in your questions, though, for tonight. We asked you guys on all of our social media platforms to send away. And we do have 3 questions that we're going to kick our show off with. Question number 1 is kind of going with news that I think it broke today, right? The international NFL games. And happens to be that the New York Giants are one of them in London against Green Bay. So that leads us into our first question of the night. Would you ever consider going to a New York Giant game or another NFL game in London? Kate?
No, I don't think so. I don't think it's on my radar right now. I don't even go to Giants. I've never even been to a Giants game at another. Oh, that's a lie. I've been to Lincoln Financial. I've outside of the state of Pennsylvania
area.
Yeah, I haven't been to a Giants game at another stadium, let alone. I don't actually think I've seen another football team play at another, aside from that Giants game, like at another stadium. So I would definitely and I know we spoke about this before COVID. I know your husband does this with his brother and his friends. They go to other stadiums to watch games. I would love to start doing that, especially with you, going to see Giants games on the road. London right now just isn't on my radar. I actually think the London games, the overseas games, the other international games, they're a waste of time in my opinion, and they're a distraction. So it's just not on my list personally. So
I'm right there with you. I have to be honest. I have a whole U.S. bucket list and a non-U.S. bucket list of travel destinations, and I cannot say that London is on that list. I think
would go to London.
I would certainly do other places, like if international games were in other places besides London, and the Giants were playing, or even like we said, the question said a non-Giants game. Then if it was somewhere that also happened to be on my travel bucket list, then I'd be like, all right, cool. It's the same thing sometimes you see when somebody you like a band or a singer has a global tour, and you're like, well, hell, if I happen to be in Italy and they're playing, then I would go see them. So it's one of those things. But London is not on the travel bucket list. And honestly, there are places probably in the U.S. that are on my travel bucket list that you could catch an NFL game. So I'd rather that first before going to London.
I just wouldn't be traveling to London for an NFL game. It just that's my mentality.
I don't think I'd be, and I wouldn't be traveling to London, period. So.
I'd go to London 100%. It's not, and I know they introduced, Mexico City, the Netherlands. There's a game in the Netherlands.
I would do that.
So that's interesting. So I just, again, I'm not traveling for an NFL game that far, so to say. So.
Okay. All right, question number 2. This is a good one. What school do you think Arch Manning will end up committing to? So Arch Manning is not in this recruiting class. He's in the 2023 recruiting class. But of course, I mean, we've been hearing the buzz about Arch Manning ever since he, probably even before high school.
Stepped on the field.
Yeah. So Kate, any inkling or gut feeling of where Arch Manning might play college football?
He's going to play in the SEC. There's no, it's a no-brainer there. I just would love to see kind of where he falls, in the Manning family. Is it going to be Tennessee? Is it going to be Ole Miss? Is he going to kind of shake the reins a little bit and go to an Auburn, an Alabama? I don't know. I think it's too close to call here. I think if you wanted to maybe right now put money on it if you're looking at actual program strength and who needs a quarterback in the next coming years. Obviously, we saw an Ole Miss quarterback in the 2022 NFL draft discussions and things like that, and the actual play out there. So if I had to put money on it and say today I'm going to go Ole Miss, but I'd love to shake things up and see. I'd say he'd actually go to like an Auburn, so which would really shake up the Manning household, I think. But and I'll obviously be biased always and love for him to go to Alabama.
Well, the good news is that I definitely do a little bit of reading on Arch Manning from time to time, and it seems as though in the last couple months it's really come down to rumors of 3 schools for him, which include Alabama, Georgia, and Texas.
Okay.
He did apparently
don't go to Georgia, Arch. I swear to God.
Apparently there's 2 more that kind of like entered the chat here with LSU and Florida. And that's mainly because they had changes at the head coaching position.
Right.
So now that they have new head coaches, they're kind of like on his radar as well. Like, would I want to go there with these coaches? But I still think it's going to be between like these top 3 that is rumored with Bama, Texas, and Georgia. And I think I'm leaning more towards Bama and Georgia. And if I had to just do a random gut feeling for pretty much no reason whatsoever, I'm going to go Georgia. I'm going to say Georgia.
Don't kill me, Katie.
Isn't it weird that it's hard for me to imagine him at Alabama?
It is. I think it is. Well, if you think about it, I mean, the Ole Miss, Alabama rivalry is huge. It's one of the things I can't get over.
Well,
the fact that
anybody in the SEC versus Alabama is that's
huge.
enemy number 1.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually can. I think that would be a pretty big disruption in the Manning household. But honestly, if he goes, I swear I'm just buying a jersey just because Manning's on the back of an Alabama jersey. I'll do that.
Hell yeah.
So you got it. That would be the next framed one up on the wall. No matter what he does in his career, it's just going on the wall for show. So, but
I would buy a Manning Bama jersey. I don't care. Like,
hello, we've got an aloha.
Hello. But yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting. But for sure, I agree with you, 100% SEC. I don't think he's going to follow in the footsteps with anybody in his family as far as Ole Miss and Tennessee. I do think he's going to break away from that, but I think
he should. He should do what I did. All of my siblings went to one school, and I said, nah. All my siblings went to Quinnipiac, and I said, no, thank you. I had to be the only one.
Yeah, I think he's going to do the same. I think he's going to pick differently.
Absolutely.
And then last but not least, do you think that Chicago is going to kind of take a step forward with their fan base with Justin Fields in his second year as far as like their commitment to him? Maybe their belief in him, their commitment to him. Are they going to ride with him?
Like success as a team too with him, I see.
Right,
yeah.
Right.
Very interesting question. I think that right now, whether they're successful or not, I think what that franchise needs is a commitment. We saw a lot of the waffling back and forth between quarterbacks last season. And it's mine and Katie's both opinions that ruins a team. It really ruins it when you're going back and forth. Like, I'm naming him the starter week 1, but then 3 weeks later, actually, we're going to go with him. But now we're going to go with him. And we kind of saw that last year with Andy Dalton. We had Justin Fields. It was kind of a little bit all over the place. So I think that, the fans, obviously they want success from the Bears. I don't think the Bears had a very good draft. We're going to get into that a little bit later. I think they could have had a better one. So what is going to gain their trust, like from an organization? Like, I don't know if it's this whole season's going to be complete 100% back trust, like with the franchise. But if you do commit to one person from a quarterback standpoint, you drafted Justin Fields, you want him to be your future, then put all your eggs in one basket and move forward. So it's kind of my thoughts on that.
I definitely feel like I agree with you. I think when you draft somebody as high as you do, and I'm going to compare it to the New York Giants drafting Daniel Jones at 6. Like, I feel like you have no choice but to be ride or die with that quarterback. Like, you have to have belief in them. Like, you don't want to be you don't want to be like NFL teams are today, where if you're not winning in your first year as like head coach or starting quarterback or whatever, it's like, I'm done with you, I'm throwing you out. Like, no, like they, gave up picks to move up and take Justin Fields a year ago. You took him early. You got to ride or die with him. I don't know if he is the future for the Chicago Bears, but I think the fan base needs to rally behind him. So
Yeah, I agree.
hopefully that's what they do. All right. Well, those were very different but good questions. All different.
Yeah.
Like that. And then of course we are live. So any more questions?
Yeah, pop them over. We're live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. If you're on the Twitter, I see a couple people watching us. Just reply to the tweet and let me know your questions. I'll read them over to Katie throughout the show. If you're on YouTube and Facebook, you can just comment right there and it's going to pop up on our screen and we'll show you guys those questions. But ask us anything throughout the show. Comment on our stuff as well. We already got a couple of comments, so thank you guys for joining. But we're going to move into our big stories of the week for football. And the first thing is, we're going to do a lot of draft talk tonight, but right away, we want to just, we are a football podcast. We are Giants fans. We would love to, dissect the Giants draft a little bit. I do want to give a shout out. We were invited on two shows last week. So thank you guys, for having me. I know Katie was away, but we were able to, I put in your excitement for the first round on both shows. So we were on New York Giants Rush and Big Blue Avenue. So thank you guys for having us on for our initial reactions to the draft. But, Katie is here now with me, obviously, so she can give reactions. So let's go through this here. So honestly, your thoughts on our two first round picks.
Amazing. Could it have played out better? Honestly, I think it went a little bit opposite 5 and 7. I thought, so we took Kayvon Thibodeau at 5. We took Evan Neal at 7. I thought it was going to be a flip flop. I definitely thought when we were picking at 5 and no offensive lineman had gone off the board yet, I was like, all right, it's going to be Icky or Evan Neal, 100%. Yeah. And when it was Kayvon, I wasn't upset about it because again, you're doing a position of need in a pass rusher, desperately need a pass rusher. And then when we pull up to 7 and we can still take Evan Neal, and they did, it was like music to my ears. So my friend was texting me at 5 after the 5 pick, and he was like, how do you like it? What do you think? Are you happy? I said, ask me in 2 picks, because I wanted to make sure we were getting an offensive lineman at 5 or 7. If they had gone a different position at 7, I would not be sitting here today necessarily being as thrilled as I am, but it worked out beautifully. What do you think?
It really did. I'm smiling ear to ear. I know going in, a couple weeks back, maybe a month or 2 back, I went in we've 9 picks. We need 9 men. We need 9 offensive linemen. But as the weeks go on, you learn more about these guys. You really understand. Obviously, I'm a huge Bama fan, so I'm actually looking at more games to maybe where Alabama played certain people. You're looking at more tape on certain guys of how they can fit in you. So as it gets closer and closer to the draft, it becomes more and more real. Kayvon Thibodeau is truly, one of the best, if not the best edge rusher in this draft. And I was beyond thrilled to get him at 5, but I had the same reaction as you is how did the Giants pull off that switcheroo? It was a switcheroo on us because it was grab Neal right away, but Kayvon Thibodeau was there. And it was you're going to grab that talent because you were right, Katie. We needed that talent. We do need that there. And I just love the initial reaction from the 2 of them, grabbing them at those 2 spots. Truly, they loved being called and told they were being New York Giants. And that to me is just the ultimate. I'll always go back to the draft where Eli Apple was drafted. And he had such a sourpuss on his face as he was going to the New York Giants. I knew that night. I did not like him day 1. And here we are. Caitlin knew it. I knew it day 1. You can really sense when you look at someone when they are drafted. You're being drafted into the NFL. You should be ecstatic. I know teams or players have their favorites and they know where they want to go, but you are making a leap in your career that not many people can do. So I loved the raw excitement from the 2 of them. And it really was, they're very Kayvon seems like a very more outgoing, like personality kind of guy. Evan Neal, very to himself, but
doesn't that kind of like go with the defensive end versus an offensive
offensive
line?
line?
Linemen are kind of like quiet. I'm going to go. I'm going to grind, right?
Yeah.
Like we're not like the studs of the team. We're not the quarterbacks or like the wide receivers or the flashy guys. We're the hardworking guys. And then you have a pass rusher who's like, the star of the defense, getting the sacks, like making the big plays. So it kind of like, I feel like those personalities fit their positions.
It does. And I definitely must say, so I recorded my reactions. I'm such an annoying person, to be honest. I put them on Twitter. The Kayvon Thibodeau one, I was just like so ecstatic through the roof because it was like, I guess I wasn't expecting it. I just assumed we'd be getting Evan Neal, and then that second pick would be a question mark. Like, would the Giants do something? Would they trade? Would they do something like that? So I didn't know if we were getting Evan Neal at 7, but I was still so excited to get Thibodeau. And then my Evan Neal reaction was definitely more like cool, calm, and collective, because by the time we got to that spot, I was like, there's no way we're not taking him.
Right.
And I know. Well, it's Chris commenting on here that he can confirm that I was acting like a lunatic. So, but it was listen, I liked their raw emotions. Like I had good raw emotions too.
Well, you're going to like this, Kate, because today I was, reading up on the draft and everything like that. And I believe it was from Connor Orr from Sports Illustrated. He was breaking down every team's draft. And he described Thibodeau as the most athletic pass rusher for the Giants since Jason Pierre-Paul, which that's what everyone loved about JPP was he was an athletic freak. That's what they called him, like a freak. Mm-hmm. And then he also called Evan Neal the steal of the draft. So to hear those two things in the description of the Giants draft,
I love it.
Music to my ears.
It's making my hands sweat. I'm so excited. Do you have like any thoughts on any of the other picks? Obviously, we had a decent amount. We did a lot of trades, so we got more picks. But
just a couple thoughts here. I think the theme of the New York Giants draft was we went after positions of need. Yep. I know a lot of times, like, that's the thing is like when you're on the board, are you just going to go best player available? Are you going to go position of need? I felt as though collectively the Giants really went after positions of need.
100%.
I think, they got a tight end in Bellinger, which we desperately got talking about need. We desperately needed a tight end. So I like to see them not like reach on one early, but, definitely made sure that they got one. Safety Dane Belton, he was described in an article as a Jabril Peppers type player, so that's huge.
Need that
filling in the safety position for Peppers, who is no longer there. And then second rounder wide receiver Wan'Dale Robinson. I read that he's a big playmaker in the slot, a lot of quickness after catch. I when you can have a legit, to me, that's also music to my ears. When you're a legit slot player and you're that guy, that yards after catch guy, like there was always no doubt in my mind, like on some of those dump offs to like Victor Cruz or Odell Beckham Jr., that if you just hit them like in stride, they're gone to the house. So if that's going to be Wan'Dale, I'm all for it. So that's kind of what I thought. It's always harder to dive into like our later rounds.
Yeah.
But those were some guys earlier, like in day 1 and day 2, that I was very excited about.
Absolutely. With the Giants, though, I think it was actually pretty easy to dive into their later rounds because like you had said, we went for positions of need, and I really think we nailed it from start to finish. And the guys that we ended up getting in the later rounds really were standouts. What I loved the most, what really stood out to me, we went for strength. Like we went for really strong and tough players. Half the guys near the end of what we picked were described as monsters. Half these guys have bigger necks than they do, like this way, like than they do that. Like these are just big, bulky guys. And yes, things are going to change when you go from the NFL to, or excuse me, from college to the NFL. You kind of work out differently. You do a lot of things differently. But these guys, all of them were described basically as like monsters on the field. And if I can go back to the New York Giants days where people were freaking terrified of our line, both offense and defensive, and the guys coming at you like Michael Strahan, Osi Umenyiora, wanting to rip your helmet off, the description for all of these players near the end of the draft, that is what we got there. And I must say, I loved the 2 picks out of UNC. You got 2 linemen that were teammates now coming to the New York Giants. So I'm thrilled about those 2 picks. So those are my standouts there.
Blocking for a Duke boy. So
yes. So I just hope that we all leave that at the side of the road. Listen, there's a lot of Bama and Georgia players on the Giants as well. So if they can leave that at the side of the road, I believe that Duke and UNC can leave it there.
We can coexist in the football world, not in basketball.
We can. So it is doable. So, So is there anything that you wish the Giants did differently?
Honestly, no. And again, like this was a weird and a hard draft for me, not just following the Giants, but just following it in general. Of course, like Kate said, like I was away like the entire weekend. So yes, I was definitely watching the tracker on my phone. I was seeing the picks come in. I just wasn't catching like any of the broadcasts whatsoever, including the first round. Mm-hmm. So, just like a snapshot of what we did, and especially knowing what we did in the first round, like we said they had to freaking nail the 5 and 7, like no excuses. You had to nail it, and I feel like they did. So honestly, I don't really think that I have anything on my end to complain about or wish that they did differently.
Yeah, I mean the only thing I really wished, and this has nothing against this player. I wish we waited on the wide receiver. You know, we had an early 2nd round pick that clearly we moved. We gained more picks from it. We still had room to go after certain players. And obviously some noise was coming out around some defensive players that maybe were on our list and things like that. This is nothing against, Wan'Dale Robinson. I've seen his tape now. He's clearly very talented. A lot of, comparisons to Kadarius Toney though, which, we didn't use him last year. Like, are we going to use this new kid? So like, it's for me, I think we could have waited. We waited on a tight end, obviously, and got a great pick in my opinion. I would have taken a defensive player, in my opinion, at that slot in number 2, the 2nd round. That's the only thing I really, and also too, what kind of bothered me, and it bothers me because I am biased on this one. Mechie from Alabama was available, and we ended up going with this kid from Kentucky. And then, Mechie was swooped up right after. So and I get the injury with Mechie. Like, I'm not stupid. Clearly, I know the Giant. I mean, the Alabama. I follow them, but that's the only thing I'd say. And I was a little disappointed to see kind of that. One player was still on the board, and then we went with him. But I'm right now in the trust the Joe Shane process. I will trust it, and I will see what happens. So because I don't want to get mad at one pick. Because I actually do think the rest of the draft was very good. So
yeah, definitely.
All right. So what would your draft grade be for the New York Giants? Very favorable across from what I've seen across the board. So
right. So I'm definitely always the one who's like, okay, I'm not gonna just because I'm a fan of the New York Giants.
I was a little conservative on this
them
one.
Up or anything like that. But this is really going, like you said, off of many different websites that I read of big name outlets kind of giving their draft grades per team. And I felt like this was basically the consensus across the board. I'm in that like B+ A- range. So I'm actually kind of leaning a little more towards the A-. And I definitely think, like I said, hitting home runs on that 5 and 7 was, I think that's what pushes me to that A-.
Yeah. I'm going to go with a B plus on this one. I think
Okay.
the second round really kind of, the second round rounded my total calculation here on this one and really looking at it. So have to, which is still a phenomenal grade. And like you said, we had 2 in the first round that we had to knock out of the park, and we did. So if at the end of the day we had X amount of guys and 2 of them are really our future and they really kick ass over the next 10 years, I'm cool. So
yeah, absolutely.
but it was exciting. Like I'm so excited. I'm so excited. So it was really, really fun to watch. So
and good news, people. While I totally thought I was going to be on an airplane in the air while the Giants were making those picks. I've never wished for my flight to be delayed more. Never in my life have I ever wished for one of my flights to be delayed, but it was, and I was able to sit there and see the Giants make those 2 picks. So that was super exciting. Very happy about that.
And Katie had a glass of Chardonnay on the plane. I would love to call that out as well.
Yeah. So as much as I was hoping for the delayed flight, it made for a really long night. I was delayed for an hour and a half. It could be worse. There's been worse. But it was a later flight. So I didn't land in South Carolina till that's where I was. I wasn't there till midnight. So by the time I got on that plane, I was like, yeah, you know what? I don't know what these flight drinks cost, but I'm going to need one. And I was trying not to be picky. So I asked for white wine. And then they handed me a bottle of Chardonnay. And I was like, you know what? At this point, beggars can't be choosers. No. Give me the bottle. Let's go.
It's not like I can call Caitlin to get onto the plane with me and drink this at this point. So
it's it is what it is at this point. Let's go.
Nor would I. I would not willingly get on an airplane with you. So. No amount of Chardonnay would get me on.
Yep. All right. Well, we are definitely going to dive into the draft a lot more in our game. And obviously not with just the New York Giants, but across the board. But before we do that, we want to get into NFL quick hot topics and just kind of remind you of things in this past week that have happened, mainly for the most part, as far as trades that have happened, contract extensions, things like that. So, of course, these things also happened during the draft. This was big draft news and trade news. But Baltimore traded wide receiver Marquise Brown and the number 100 overall draft pick to Arizona in exchange for the 2020. In exchange for their number 23 overall pick. Now, this ended up being good for Arizona to get.
They had to have known something.
We'll get to that in a little bit. But that ended up being good to land a wide receiver there. But this was big. This news I actually heard on the plane. While I was on the plane, I heard
that was so funny.
2 rows back from me say it. And I'm sitting in my seat shit.
You should have turned around and said, shit.
I was like, shit. Give me that Chardonnay. Shit.
All the Chardonnays you have.
Tennessee traded wide receiver A.J. Brown to the Philadelphia Eagles in exchange for the number 18 and number 1 overall pick. I thought that was a great move for Philly because even though this was a very wide receiver heavy draft, I did feel like a lot of them went super early before Philly was set to make their pick. And it was kind of looking like, all right, we could still get someone, but maybe it wasn't necessarily one of the ones we really truly had our heart set on. And so to get A.J. Brown, who you already know is a young, solid, one of the top receivers in the league. To land him, I thought that was huge for Philly, honestly. New Orleans, they signed the other day. They signed safety Tyrann Mathieu. That was a great signing for them.
Huge signing for them.
Atlanta agreed to a 3-year contract extension worth up to $51 million with defensive tackle Grady Jarrett, obviously a very talented player that they were able to lock down and keep around. So that was good as well. And then good for Arizona getting Marquise Brown because on Monday it was announced that the NFL was suspending Arizona wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins for the first 6 games of the season for violating the league's PED policy.
This is wild.
Not good for Arizona. I don't know. I kind of feel
they had to have known
is gonna quietly combust. You know how?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just no rhyme or reason, and you're like, this team should be good and they're talented, but then they just combust. I had the Seattle Seahawks like supposed to win their division. Like that was my prediction heading into last season. And then, whatever. You never know. That could be Arizona.
Seattle could be combusting too. I don't think they're at combustion yet, but Arizona was a team that spiked up randomly. Like not randomly, I think they built out.
They had the 1 seed. They had the 1 seed on lock, like almost, for the playoffs, and then they kind of like got weird at the end of the season.
With the trade with Hollywood Brown though, I think they had to have known something because I feel like this kind of breaking news doesn't come up just randomly. Like there's investigations, you have to talk to people. So like, did Arizona know behind the scenes? I kind of feel like they had to have at this point. So because the trade was kind of random. I don't know. So they definitely have known something. So I read, DeAndre Hopkins' like response to this. And it's interesting, he's very much shocked at what's going on. And like, he's, I guess, said he would attempt to fight it as much as he can, but he did sign off with his response. Like, I'll see you in week 7. So like that to me kind of says like, are you guilty? Because you're not going to fight it that much.
Well, I gotta say, like not just in football, but just in sports in general, like some people that get suspended for PEDs, like they try to argue like, oh, I took something that my trainer told me to take, and I had no idea that it had this ingredient that is on the banned list of ingredients. Like, so
listen, that's what happened with Logan Ryan, right?
It happened with Sharapova in women's tennis.
Well, something happened with Logan Ryan when he was on the Giants. They were trying to have another baby.
I do believe it probably happens. But
there's so much in these.
It happens. And like, yeah, you can try and fight it, but I feel like they don't get overturned very often.
But it's like if I'm taking an actual drug to make like a performance enhancing drug, like if I'm truly taking like a steroid or something like that, like yes, 6 games. Like Logan Ryan wasn't suspended because they found he did fight it. And it was something that he was taking because him and his wife were trying to have another baby.
Right.
That's what it was. It was like a fertility drug. And it was like, and you're right, these people have trainers, they have doctors, and a lot of them are probably saying like, yes, it's okay. But like drugs these days,
things that
so much stuff in them.
That specific example, those are some of the things that you wouldn't necessarily think like, oh, I've got to check with my doctor and my trainer and make sure that there's not an ingredient that I can't take. Like, you wouldn't necessarily think that, but
yeah. But I mean, like, honestly, though, like, think about every time, like, you go to the doctor for a physical, they're always asking what you're on. Or if you happen to go into the emergency room or you're having an operation, like, they need to know, like, all the nitty gritty. So for the NFL, like, they need to know the nitty gritty for you just, like, as a player for them. But they also have rules and regulations for things. So I mean, that's just kind of like my comparison. Like I go get a checkup and my doctor wants to know the vitamins I'm taking and like the name brand because she wants to understand what the hell am I putting into my body? Right. So I'm an average person. I'm not playing for the NFL. So
slippery slope, and they just have to be extra careful about it, extra diligent about it. Because I think a lot of these people aren't trying to break any rules. Like they're really not. But it unfortunately like happens when you're not diligent about checking what you are putting in your body.
And it is, like you just said, just you gotta listen, what's it from? It's from Salt Lake City. Treat my body as a temple. You gotta treat your body as a temple, people. So make sure you know what's going in. Alrighty, so let's move into our quick stories of the week, or our hot story, whatever stories of the week for Housewives. I'm getting them mixed up. It's our stories of the week for Housewives, but they're hot topics. So we're doing some quick ones. We've got 3 of them for you. So the first one, and this is the most sentimental and the cutest little thing, and it was such a surprise to me and Katie.
Such a surprise. Such a good surprise.
All of the Bravo world. On Friday, Andy Cohen took to Instagram to announce the birth of his second child by surrogacy, a baby girl named Lucy Eve Cohen. Cohen has also his son, Ben, who was born in 2019. So this time around, though, the baby was a secret. And I got to say, he put pictures side by side. I think it has to be the same surrogate. They're identical. They're identical.
I haven't seen the side by side of like
The baby
Ben
pictures.
being born, like as a newborn. I haven't seen the side by side. But listen, if that's the case, Ben is like literally the cutest little kid I've ever seen in my life. So
I think it has to be the same. And if not, regardless, like, what Andy did was, he really like raved about the birth of his new child, but he also raved about in both pregnancies, the surrogacy, like having a surrogate and like how important that is. And like in this day and age, I was actually thinking about this the other day. Like someone pointed out, I know you weren't a big Friends watcher, but I was. So there's 3 main character females on the show, and 3 of them get pregnant they have children through 3 different ways. One just gets naturally pregnant, one adopts, and they adopt it through basically, obviously, someone who's giving birth and they give their child over. And then the other one is being a surrogate for her brother. So someone had mentioned that, like, what a great show to show 3 different ways of having children. So I love that Andy, clearly, brings light to, surrogacy and how important it is. And I love that, it was a secret, obviously, but maybe it was a good thing because it made us so happy. Like that was like that day was just like pure sunshine and rainbows.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, so happy for him. Yeah. Like, he seems like such a good dad every time he posts things with Ben.
I know. They're so cute. Ben.
I'm ecstatic for him. Very, very happy.
Absolutely. Alrighty, so on Monday, Radar Online and other news outlets reported that Real Housewives of New Jersey cast member Jackie Goldschneider will be demoted to a friend status next season, and that producers are testing out 3 new ladies to join the cast: a friend of Melissa's, a friend of Teresa's, and a friend of Margaret's. Yeah, that will go over really freaking well. Rumors also swirled that Tracy Lynn Johnson has not been asked back yet for next season. So not surprised about that. I didn't really like her and Tiki's storyline. Like it was whatever. They were, in my opinion. Honestly, though, a friend of Melissa, Teresa, and Margaret coming in.
That's not meant as like all 3 are coming in. It means that they're testing out 3 different women, most likely probably just bringing in one of them. But the 3 that they're testing out, one happens to be a friend of Melissa's, one of Margaret.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Okay.
They're not bringing in 3 new ladies.
Oh, okay.
They're just testing out 3 new ladies and trying to decide which one they would bring.
Okay, that's what I thought the entire time.
Because we're going to have like 8, 9.
Why do you think my reaction was like that? And even before today, when I was sending like some information to you, I was like, I guess you caught on to it. The back of my head, I was like, 3 is a lot of people.
Yeah, I think it's just going to be like they're testing out 3, but I think they're probably bringing in 1, and it might honestly not even be a full-time cast member. It could also be another friend, especially if they're keeping Jackie around as a friend. Yeah. I kind of just feel as though this is the standard of a franchise that you don't mess with the cast. I feel like it works as is, especially because the men are like their own little wolf pack. Like that they're like a group that goes together. The women are a group. Like, I didn't feel that there was any necessary need for a change for this cast. So
is Evan going to be like more involved than Jackie? Because he's a guy.
I don't expect that when all those guys get together, like, and granted, there will still be scenes of Jackie if she's a friend. Right. But I still feel like every guy scene has to include Evan. Like if they're all there, they're not just going to like call and invite Evan. Oh, we can't call you anymore.
No, sorry.
Friend.
You're just a friend.
You're a friend of the
Exactly.
house.
So I feel like Evan might have more airtime than Jackie.
I don't know, but I just don't think this cast needed to be touched. Even if you're like not a fan of Jackie, I just don't think, like, of course there's 5, 6, 7 women in a cast. There's always gonna be ones that you like and that you don't like. But even if you don't like Jackie, I think you can't argue the fact that like it doesn't all work together as a cast, like, and to just leave it alone. So
yeah, I agree. Well, it's been a wild season so far. We are on the reunion, just premiered last night. So
yeah, Katie, I'm a little bit behind. I just finished the first Nashville episode where obviously Teresa and Margaret really throw down. So I have a little bit of catch up to do.
Yeah, but we'll give you, as we do always, we will give you our final thoughts on the season and the reunion as it wraps up in, I guess we're giving another 3-parter, so in 2 weeks. So I can't, I already, like, I did not actually watch last night, but I saw like the recaps and the commentary. Katie, I got to tell you, I don't even know if I want to. I'm going to do it.
I've seen a lot. It seems extremely cutthroat. So
I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it for the show. I'm going to do it for the fans, but I'm not going to like it. I'll tell you that. So I'll tell you that much. But alrighty. And then last but not least, because this is huge news and Katie and I are so excited and we've cleared our calendars. They're marked, they're blocked, and we're ready for when we got to put our money forward.
Right.
Last week, Bravo announced that BravoCon will be returning this year in 2022. The Bravo Lab filled convention that debuted in 2019 was forced to cancel, unfortunately, for the last 2 years due to COVID, but it's coming back October 14th to the 16th at the Javits Center, and they expect to have over 100 Bravo Levs in attendance. I've been to an event at the Javits Center. It's great. It's huge. It's ginormous. It's easy to get to via Uber, via taxi. I'm pumped, Katie.
Well, I'm pulling up the receipts right now.
I think there's other locations. Like, I think the Javits is their biggest spot.
Okay, so I wanted to pull up the receipts on when we went in 2019 to see what the date was. We went mid-November.
Okay, good. So we got October.
We were complaining that it was way too cold.
Freezing.
So mid-October is a little bit hit or miss in New Jersey, but there have been times where it's still very warm out, and that is definitely what we're going to hope for.
And there's going to be Halloween decorations in the city.
Yes.
I'm wearing a Halloween costume.
We'll be the only ones in costume again.
No, you know what? People are going to wear a costume now. They're going to copy us. I swear to God, if someone is dressed as Dorinda or Luann in a bush, I will murder them. I will be your stage husband, and I will knock out anyone who's dressed as Luann in a bush and just say no.
We're going to have to think like now about how we can top that. So
I honestly, like, it's been 2 years. Yours was so good. I think you could redo it. Me, I need a little work, honestly. And I'm okay with that. Like, that's fine. Like, I accept it. Like, I could be better. Like,
we're going to think of something really good. We will.
We got this. We got it. Like, our calendars are blocked. Now it's the time where they are opening more tickets. I did see that, when we got them last time, Katie was not in this country and I had to literally sit in like this waiting room, and I didn't even know we were going to get tickets. Honestly, like, I didn't get them the first time around. I didn't. And I was like, I can't even tell you. I didn't even want to call you. I didn't want to tell you because it was the 3-day event. And I was like, I'd go, trying. Didn't get them. And then they opened up 1-day tickets. And I was like, all right, I'm in. And I got it. They put me in that waiting room. I was there for like maybe 10 minutes. I felt like I was there for 4 hours. And they were like, you got it. How many tickets? 2. Buy quick. Literally. Because there were so many people, like, after we got our tickets, the amount of things we saw, like, on, like, those Bravo Instagram accounts, there was people even, like, I know, like, not no, but, like, through, like, high school and college that, like, were bitching online about not getting tickets. And I was like,
or getting them and realizing that they were, like, a small amount in a hot commodity and selling them for however much more. Like,
I know, but, oh, my God.
We were very lucky. We were very lucky.
So, again, we just need to cross our fingers. And now there's 2 of us, though, so someone's getting us. We have to get our families involved. Like, everyone's involved. Give out all of our credit cards here. Okay, just you buy when you get 2 tickets.
Yes, absolutely. Good strategy.
A lot of fun, though. But so a lot of good things going on in the Housewives world. But as we get closer to BravoCon, obviously, we'll keep you guys in the loop. So
yes. Definitely looking forward to it, but let's get into our game for tonight. We did tell you it was going to be draft related. We were going to break down the draft. So this game is called Draft Day 2022, the good, the bad, and the ugly. This is really based off of almost the same exact questions as last year. We play this game again, and we're going to give our thoughts on the 2022 NFL draft by answering, 10 different questions. So without further ado, very interested in hearing your breakdown of the draft. It was definitely, like I said, it was challenging for me not to hear the broadcast. So it was a lot of article reading for me. But
Yeah.
question number one, what 5 teams do you think had the best draft?
Well, I must say though, Katie, you shouldn't like a lot of article reading. It was a wild draft. I will just preface it that. So there was a lot of article reading for all of us when it ended. Like there were like even when you got into the second and the third rounds, like there was a lot of things people questioned, and there was a lot of moving parts. So this was one of the crazier drafts I've experienced in my lifetime. So I even admit for this.
It was a lot.
For this game that we're playing right now, I had to do my homework and I watched it live all weekend. So best teams though off the board, I gotta hand it to the Jets, the Ravens, the Chiefs, the Lions, and Green Bay. And then I'll give are we the same exact ones?
We have 4 out of 5.
I'm going to give my honorable mention though to the Eagles because of the AJ Brown thing.
Your honorable mention just was the one team that you didn't include.
So I give it an honorable mention because I actually had brought this up to my boyfriend who is an Eagles fan. I was like, does it really count like for you guys to have a good trade or a good draft? If it was for a trade. And his argument was actually, yes, like they got picks from it. So they traded picks, they did things. So it did make sense. So that was actually kind of my like argument back. Like, did you guys actually have a really good draft because you got a current player? But they ended up doing pretty well in the later rounds as well. So that's why I did put an asterisk. I gave them an honorable mention there. So.
I think it 100% counts. I thought it was an excellent move for them in the draft. It happened in the midst of the draft, picks involved. I thought it was a great move. So I did include them in my top 5. And, we had 4 out of 5. I had Baltimore, Kansas City, the Jets, Philly, and Green Bay. So I left out Detroit. Detroit also had a really good draft. I swear, kid you not, I was like, oh, people are going to think I'm like just saying whatever. But like I did consider the Giants in my top.
So did I. They were in. I pulled them out. They were in. I pulled them out.
They were slightly out of the top 5 for me, just slightly. But yeah, it's funny that we're like pretty much on the same page here. So now this will be interesting. If we're on the same page here too, what 5 teams do you think had the worst draft?
I actually just realized I only picked 4 for number 2, but I'll think of some. I'll think of someone. So I'm going with the Bears, the Seahawks, the Vikings, and the Panthers. To add a 5th team in, I don't think the Patriots had a wild draft, so I'll throw them into the number 5 slot.
We have a lot of the same, and everybody that you named that I don't have on my list were teams that I 100% considered too that were just outside of my top 5 or my bottom 5. I have New England, New Orleans, Seattle, Indy, and Chicago.
Okay, I thought New Orleans. Yeah, I could see that. I maybe they were like my mid-lower level.
Indy's like my big woof. And this kind of goes in with you questioning like asterisk on Philly, like, oh, does it count like that, with AJ Brown, the trade? That's kind of same thing with Indy, like a little bit of an asterisk because they gave up a 1st round pick to get Carson Wentz on their team. Right. So to me, like the fact that they didn't have a 1st rounder because they brought in Carson.
They didn't have a terrible drive. Yeah.
That's like, oof. Like, oof. So that's kind of like my asterisk there where like a move that you made in the past affected this draft.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Number 3, what was a 1st round pick that you loved?
So I got to say that the Jets had a phenomenal
draft. Are you
going
to pick my answer?
Well, but listen to what I have. Like it's not an asterisk, but it was their move. It was their move to come back into the 1st round and get Jermaine Johnson. That was the 1st round pick that I absolutely loved. They obviously got Sauce and Wilson early, huge for their teams. They went defense first, which we called it, the 2 of us. They're gonna go defense first. That's what the Jets love to pick defensive players. They obviously went with Wilson, a wide receiver, to see what he can do with Zach. Another Wilson to Wilson combo. We'll see. But the trade back or up, I messed it up. the trade into the first round for that third pick, that's what made their draft so successful. If they didn't do that, it would have been a subpar draft, in my opinion. Them coming and grabbing Jermaine Johnson was huge, huge for them. So I loved that first round pick. So
yeah. I literally put Florida State defensive end Jermaine Johnson to the New York Jets at 26. So the Jets traded back into the first to snag a player that could have been a top 10 pick in the NFL draft,
yes.
honestly. And the Jets, I know, liked him. Like, I remember reading, seeing all the mock drafts. The Jets liked Jermaine Johnson the entire time.
Right.
They were supposedly considering him at their 4 pick, at their 10 pick. And to be able to trade back into the first and get him at 26,
huge.
I mean, that's why everybody across the board, not just you and I, like discussing it and saying that they're in our top 5 of the best. Every news article gave the New York Jets an A, and we can't argue it. Like, it was amazing. All right, number 4. What was the most head scratching pick of round 1? We're like so on the same page right now. So I'm intrigued.
Well, I'm not the only one who thought this one. Mel Kiper Jr. was scratching his head live during the draft. Dallas went with Tyler Smith, offensive tackle out of Tulsa. That was such a question mark in the first round for them. The Cowboys, much like many other teams in the league, but also many other teams in the NFC East, have their areas where they need fixing. So I know they think they lost an offensive lineman recently, but it's not something to go after an offensive tackle right away like that. I didn't like the pick. I thought it was very questionable. And the individual, I thought the player was questionable as well. So
yeah, I definitely read that on some lists of picks that people didn't love. I wasn't in love with the fact, because of how it went down, of New Orleans trading up to 11 for Ohio State wide receiver Chris Olave.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I think he was a top 3 wide receiver in the draft. I just thought that first off, when I saw them trade up to 11, I was like, oh, they are 1000% taking a quarterback. I really believe that. And as much as I thought Malik Willis was going to be the first drafted quarterback, I thought New Orleans liked Kenny Pickett. And I thought when they came up, that's who they were going for. Instead, they gave up their number 16 plus a 3rd round and a 4th round pick to select him. And so I felt like that was giving up a lot, considering the fact that I felt they could have stayed at 16 and maybe not gotten him, but they could have gotten another 1st round wide receiver that, could have really turned out for them. So I just felt like they gave up a lot for it. It was definitely a surprising move, a head scratching move, like we asked, like we put.
Well, I'm not sure if this is like a pun or a play on words, but New England had a strange 1st round pick.
We're going to get into that. I'm going to get into that.
Well, they did pick someone named Cole Strange guard out of Chattanooga.
This is actually exactly where I'm going with the next question.
Yeah. So. But very much so. I was going to say not maybe a play on words, but yes, for sure there. So.
Number 5, what 1st round pick did you not expect to be taken when they were?
I did not expect Drake London to be the first wide receiver off the board to Atlanta at 8. So I was really shocked about that. I mean, listen, I gave you guys my opinion. Like, I didn't think Wilson should have been the first wide receiver off the board. You disagreed with me on that.
We were both wrong. You had Jameson, I had Wilson.
Right, they all. So at number 8 to have Drake London, listen, Atlanta, if you really think that's your guy, that's great. You also didn't use Kyle Pitts at tight end last year. So I'm kind of a little concerned about what's going on down in Atlanta. So, and your quarterback room is also a question mark. So, but yeah, so let's go. Let's get into this strange pick in New England.
University of Tennessee, Chattanooga guard Cole Strange to New England at number 29. And basically because a lot of draft experts predicted him as a 3rd round pick. So that's pretty significant to think that someone you could have potentially had this player, even if you had gotten him at the end of the 2nd round or the 3rd round. I think no matter how much you love a player, you never want to hear that after you made that pick that all the draft experts were like, you could have just waited and gotten him in the 3rd round. That's like the worst thing that you can hear when your team makes a pick. You never want to hear that. So that to me was strange.
Yeah, strange. Cole's
Yeah.
strange. You're strange. So no offense.
Going outside of the world of football, almost I feel like this is on theme though, because this week was the Met Gala. So number 6, what first round pick that was in attendance for the NFL draft gets your vote for best dressed?
I must say, this is the least impressed I've been with how these guys have shown up.
Yeah,
It was very like
on that. I can agree.
I gotta give it
to choose from
to New York Giant Kayvon Thibodeau, though. I loved his suit. Oh no, I thought it was very dapper. I liked what was around, like the collar. I really did like it. So, but again, Katie, I got to tell you, there wasn't a lot of standouts.
Yeah, I did. This wasn't my pick, but this was like my honorable mention. I think it was Drake London who was in that like really just crisp burgundy suit that looked really good.
I think that's what Devontae Smith wore to either the Heisman award ceremony or to the draft. I remember Devontae Smith being in like
nice,
like very crisp. His was like velvet. It was burgundy, but it was velvet. I remember that. Yeah, I forget which one it was for, but he looked very nice in it. So
but I'm gonna go with somebody like I feel as though a lot of guys didn't go super like flashy or outlandish. But I'm gonna go with Cincinnati cornerback Sauce Gardner. He was in the baby blue suit. I was digging it. He had the 2 chain necklaces, the diamond necklaces of a sauce bottle. And then it just said sauce. I love that. I thought it was hysterical. I was digging it. I was digging the baby blue.
It's a great color.
Yeah, no, he definitely pulled it off. And the sauce bottle was like, that was
the sauce.
That was the sauce on top of Sunday.
All right. Oh, you're up. I thought I was reading for a second. Am I reading? Oh, it's you. I was like,
number 7. When the New York Giants were on the clock at 5, who did you think the pick was?
I really thought we were taking Evan Neal. He was there. I know Icky was there too. Like I really thought that he was, he was it. So.
Yeah, I said it a little bit earlier in the show, but I said with no offensive lineman off the board yet, I really thought they were going to take whoever they like better between Icky and Evan Neal. Like I 100% was like, here's our offensive lineman.
I know.
Here we go. It all worked out. But yeah, I for sure.
It was like a shocking excitement. Like my reaction was definitely like, oh.
Yeah, because I was super excited about Thibodeau, but like, it's just, it wasn't what I was expecting. And then I was like, okay, that's fine. As long as we get one of these guys.
That's what it was. Like once I stopped like recording, my reaction was like, Jesus Christ, if we don't get an offensive lineman at 7, I will kill somebody. So,
yeah. Number 8, what were 3 picks? And this is where you have to like really do your research here. What were 3 picks you loved on day 2, which was the 2nd and 3rd round?
All right. So, and I listen again, like I'm obviously really bad with pronunciation. So, and I'll get to know these guys a little bit, in the coming season, but I want, is it Bryce Hall or Brees Hall? I think it's but it's spelled not Bryce. It's Breece. So I think it's Bryce, whatever. Bryce Hall went to the Jets. I thought that was a great pickup for them. In the 2nd round, David Ajabu to Baltimore. I thought that was a good pickup for them. And then Sky Moore to Kansas City. So these are 3 teams that I picked as my top, teams, picking. So I think these were really good, I think they all fell in the 2nd round. Sky Moore might've been 3rd for Kansas City.
2nd.
Second. Okay. So then
I got
it's on your list. So, I was going to say, I think I actually didn't dip into the 3rd on this one. So.
Yeah. I didn't dip into the 3rd either. So my list, my 3 players, Western Michigan wide receiver Sky Moore to Kansas City, 2nd round, number 54 overall. He's going to be a great big play replacement for losing Tyreek Hill. So I thought that was great for them. Baylor safety Jalen Petrie to Houston, 2nd round, number 37, definitely filled the void after losing Justin Reed in free agency. He's apparently a big-time playmaker and a really good blitzer. And then my last spot is going to go to Georgia wide receiver George Pickens to Pittsburgh, 2nd round, number 52. Described as having 1st-round talent and can also be a WR1 in the league. So considering how many wide receivers actually went before him, and you're saying he could be a WR1,
yeah,
I like it.
So we've got a comment here on YouTube. What happened to Malik Willis? Biggest shocker of the draft to me.
Yeah.
Listen, Miguel, you are not the only person that this was the biggest shocker to. I was actually at the bar on Friday night, watching, and just, there was a band at the bar. We had a great time, but I was glued to the TV. I was glued to my phone. When is Malik Willis going to get
going? Yeah.
Where's he going? What's going on? So from my analysis and from everything I've heard from, what people were saying on TV to what people were saying out online, basically it was I don't want to use the word bust, but it was an overplay on the media standpoint that he was really portrayed as a top talent and really is a true late second round, true first, third rounder. And that has nothing against what he is. I think he landed perfectly in Tennessee. I really do think he did with Ryan Tannehill at the QB spot right now, taking over that, and he could be your long-term quarterback in Tennessee. For me, I think for him as a quarterback, he's sitting pretty right now. If he
maybe that's the true value though. We were super critical of this quarterback class. Let's say all these guys that just went, like Kenny Pickett, Malik Willis, Matt Corral, Sam Howell, all these guys, throw them in a draft with Kyler Murray's and Josh
They're
Allen,
going in the 5th, 6th round.
They're probably their true value could be 3rd, 4th round. So I think there was just not much to pick from at the quarterback position. And maybe he really did land at what his true value is.
So that was a lot what I was hearing. And it was definitely a shock to me too, because I guess I played into the hype. There was, I thought he was going to be the first quarterback off the board.
Me too.
And in the first, I didn't want anyone going in the first round, but so I truly valued the quarterbacks at 2-3. So I truly did value them there. So you obviously had Kenny Pickett going, and I'll get into that a little bit. We'll get into that a little bit later. We had that. So actually true value for us from our standpoint, he did sit where he was. I thought, a little bit later. I thought he was going to go a little bit sooner, especially because of all the trade and all the trading that was going on. You had Seattle that had 2 back-to-back picks. I thought they were going to jump on him. I think as teams, though, saw him falling, I think they thought he would fall a little bit more. So they
sometimes when you see a guy falling, it makes all 32 teams in the league go,
"What's going on?
Why doesn't anyone want him? What don't we know? What's wrong with him?"
It's a guy out of Georgia that the Giants wanted that went to the Eagles. I'm blanking on his name. Dean, defensive player, very talented. Got a lot of injuries though. He fell hard,
and that's what people like. It spooks people. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So that's just a little bit of a brief description there as to what happened. So
okay. This definitely takes even more research. Are there any names, and you don't have to pick 3, but are there any names that stick out to you from rounds 4 through 7?
So I actually picked 1, 2, 3, 4. I picked 4. No, and not in a good way. These are not good standouts.
I picked good standouts.
No, I picked out why the hell did you pick these people?
Okay.
So in the 4th round, we had a kicker go to Cleveland.
I didn't know that.
They picked Cade York. Baltimore picked a punter, Jordan Stout. He's apparently, I think he's the best punter.
I didn't know that.
And then the Bucks picked a punter and Jake Camarda. So I was like, yikes, in the 4th round.
Punters and not kickers?
2 punters, 1 kicker. So I was like, I think Jordan Stout is the punter. He's the next prodigy, but the 4th round, I don't give a shit.
And I feel like you could be the best punter in the league, and I still don't.
You can go undrafted.
I feel like you don't truly change the game, whereas somebody like the top kicker, like Justin Tucker, and
who's undrafted
from 60, that's a game changer.
I know.
He can literally make game-winning plays for you.
And he was undrafted, so you need to take that into consideration.
Wow.
And then my last one was the Washington Commanders taking Sam Howell, number 1 overall in round 5. Guys had Howell in the 2nd, 3rd round being picked as a quarterback.
Thing, yeah.
And but the thing is, even if he's still that talented, dropping, Washington just picked up why am I blanking on his name?
I don't hate the pick. It
I think
happened
it's
so late. It
dumb.
happened way later. I don't hate that pick.
And if I was Carson Wentz, that's like Carson Wentz. If I was Carson Wentz, I'd be like, what the fuck?
Well, because Carson Wentz can't stay healthy. I don't hate the pick.
No, I don't. I just think it's like, I don't know. I just think they're throwing like towels to like random shit. I think Washington had a bad draft, so.
All right. I actually think the NFC East, honestly, I thought Philly and New York definitely did the best. And then I feel as though, like, if I were to give draft grades for like Dallas and Washington, it would be like in the B minus B plus range. Like, I felt like nobody.
Washington's on the lower side.
I feel like nobody in our division had a bad draft. I'll put it that way, from my opinion.
Yeah.
I did ones that stuck out to me in a good way. I only have 2 of them, but I have Minnesota offensive tackle Daniel Falele to Baltimore. He was a 4th round, number 110 overall. He, after he was drafted, has become the largest NFL player at 6'8", 384 pounds. He was considered to be a top 64 prospect who fell and is now being considered like a big steal for Baltimore. Right. I think he fell because of his size, actually, because they felt maybe he wouldn't be quick enough. But he is being considered as a steal, and that could be a good one for Baltimore. And then I have defensive end Kingsley Enagbare to Green Bay. That was a 5th round pick, number 179. He was rated 75th and 83rd on 2 consensus big boards, and he went 179. He fell like 100 picks later. Right. He has starter potential with Green Bay, so getting a starter at 179 overall is phenomenal, and he's filling the void of, of course, not the full void, but of losing Zadarius Smith. So that was something of need, a position of need for Green Bay, and yeah, I thought that was a good one for them. Right. And then last but not least, will Kenny Pickett, the only first-round quarterback this year, start week 1 of the 2022 season?
I'm going to go with no on this one. I didn't like, Pittsburgh, pulling the trigger and taking him, at that pick. Where I stand with it is that they're playing into this narrative of Kyle Pickett playing at Pittsburgh. Now he's in Pittsburgh. If you that's it, but that's it. That's their only, it's an obsession, in my opinion. The Steelers have an obsession with this kid from Pitt playing for them and being their next Ben Roethlisberger. And to me, that's not a narrative at all. I need to see talent. I need to see talent for a Pittsburgh Steelers team, a Pittsburgh Steelers franchise that used to be one of the scariest franchises in the league. I don't see that with this pick at all. So I do not think he's starting week 1. I don't know who's starting week 1, but the Steelers have a long way to go before they get back to that big, scary team. So,
yeah. So I actually think, and I'm not saying that I think Kenny Pickett is worthy of being a starter or is going to be a good quarterback in the league. I don't know. All I'm saying is I think that the quarterback competition in camp is actually going to be close.
Yeah.
But I do think that they're going to play it safe with a veteran and start Mitchell Trubisky in week 1. So I do not think I just, Mitchell Trubisky has been a starter in this league. Especially a team like Pittsburgh. They're like a play it safe type organization. They don't do anything too crazy.
Yeah. It's a good
I just don't think there's a need. I think the competition might be close, and if they're struggling, you're definitely going to hear from the fan base to put him in.
100%.
And we'll see, but I think they're starting with Trubisky week 1. All right, well, that was a good deep dive into the draft. I did tell Caitlin next year, I was like, I don't know what's going on, who's getting married, who has this, who has
no one's getting married next year.
I need to make sure that I can catch the NFL draft. It is very difficult not like hearing the broadcast. But I did a lot of research today, and I guess it was good research because you watched the broadcast and we were very much so on the same page. So
absolutely. But it was a draft for the books. It was definitely a lot of moving parts, a lot of things that people did not expect. So it's like I said, it was one of the more eye-opening, exciting drafts I've experienced in my my football career or the years I've been watching the draft extensively. So definitely an interesting one for sure.
Yep.
All right, is that time of the episode where we get it off our chest? Positive, negative, football, housewives, wine, life, anything you want to talk about. So why don't you go ahead and get us started?
I feel like this isn't the only time I've heard a quarterback say this, but of course, the Tennessee Titans did draft Malik Willis.
Get it all.
And of course, reporters made sure to ask Ryan Tannehill about it.
Right away.
Which his response was, quote, "I don't think it's my job to mentor him." And whether he was meaning to come off as a dick or not, I always think it's a dick comment to make that I've heard quarterbacks make before. And Caitlin and I were talking about it before the show a little bit, kind of like laughing, like, you're not Aaron Rodgers, you're not Tom Brady. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I would understand one of them being like, you know, it's not my job to mentor him. Like,
right.
I'm Tom Brady, like, blah, blah, blah. But it's Ryan Tannehill. Like, somebody could come in and take your job. Like, they could. They could. You're not like, you know, your job isn't completely and utterly safe. So it just made me happy that, like, I felt like my feelings on it, on quarterbacks saying that, which I always hate, was validated by a lot of former and current NFL players, like, coming out on Twitter and reacting to it. So I have a couple of receipts here. This one is from LaShawn McCoy. He said, "If you don't want to mentor, I get it, but don't call yourself a good teammate. If anything happens to you and he needs to replace you, let's pray he is prepared. Winning is the only stat that matters if you are a good teammate." I love that.
Wow.
Honestly,
spot on.
Out of all the receipts I have here, that was my favorite.
That's a spot on one. Yep.
Spot on.
I didn't read that one. I like that one.
It's not about accolades, it's not about personal stats. All that matters at the end of the day is that win column.
That's him winning. Yep.
Kurt Warner said, "I will never understand the 'I'm not here to mentor the next guy' mentality. So for all you young quarterbacks that need a mentor, DM me and I'll be that guy. Happy to help in any way I can." Right?
Well, look at Kurt Warner's career. Look at him.
Took over for Kurt Warner.
He's a prime example.
Ryan Clark. "I see Ryan Tannehill is on his not my job to mentor energy. It's not, but man, it makes you a good teammate. You can win without your quarterback being a good teammate, but it's always better for the team if he is."
Yeah, I must say, like, Ryan Clark is, I'll admit that, like, I didn't know him much when he had his time. He actually played for the Giants. Yeah, really good player. Like, we'll have to, like, definitely dig into it more. But I do watch him, like, on, like, Get Up in the morning. And out of all of them, I agree with a lot of his takes. He's got a lot of really good ones. And this was one of the ones I read his and Kurt Warner's over the past couple of days. And I must agree. He makes a lot of good points over a lot of aspects that are going on. So I definitely agree with that one for sure.
Yeah. My last one is from Jeff Schwartz. He said, "Appreciate the honesty. Tannehill's job is winning games, but it is nice when veterans go out of their way to mentor young guys. I had mentors as a young player and felt I needed to do the same when I was an older guy." So, I mean, listen, I'm not a professional athlete. I was not even a collegiate athlete. But when I played sports when I was younger, you know, in junior high and high school and everything like that, I did have times where I was one of the younger classmen. And I had older people who were almost like bullies, like, in a way, like, right? Yeah. And then I made sure when I was that older classman, I was like, I will never in a million years, like, not be there for the younger players, not be their teammate, their friend, someone that they feel comfortable playing with, talking to. They can come to me, they can ask me, because you're only going to get better as a team when everybody, like, gets along, when everybody feels good, like, that's just how I am. So to me, this is like a prime example of that.
Yeah. I 100% agree with you. You know, like, I think back to, you know, my times in college, you know, my times in high school as well. And I agree. Like, I had times where older people could have been scary to you, and they were. And I knew I never wanted to be that person. And I think back to, it's funny, in high school and in college, we did the same tradition of, like, writing books to the seniors when they were seniors, like, here's everything all the players loved about you. And the narrative I saw across everything was, like, it was so easy for me to come and talk to you. And I wasn't a starter, actually, and on any team. I wasn't a captain. I wasn't a starter, but that to me, that's it. I was doing what I loved for X amount of years in my life. And for the fact that someone younger than me were to come to me and be like, hey, like, you were super cool. Like, I loved talking to you. Like, I loved coming to you for anything. Like, why would you not? And there's competition on every team. Everyone's fighting for a job. We all live in the corporate world. Our jobs, the NFL is a business. We work for businesses. Everyone has a job that you're competing for. Why would you like, and especially like us, like I don't want to like pull like the female card, but like women like are always in competition. But why make it a competition? Why do that? Just talk to each other, be there for one another.
And most of us, like most of our sports careers don't last at the professional level.
No.
So at the end of the day, like I want to be known as like a good person. And if I made somebody like feel good or like made them comfortable to talk to me or be my friend, that to me is way more important in the long run.
Absolutely. And like for me, like looking into this, like I don't know what the real criteria behind the question was. You know, was his answer getting taken out of context? I don't know. But at the end of the day, Ryan,
we've also heard this like a gajillion times from all different quarterbacks. That's why it's like
exactly. But at the end of the day, like you need to be there. Like I remember when Daniel Jones got drafted, Eli Manning was the first person to text him.
He would never say anything like that.
He texted him immediately. And guess what? Daniel Jones took his job, literally physically took his job. So like
and Eli Manning took Kurt Warner's job. He knew both sides of it.
Like you knew that, like, and it's nothing to do with mentorship for someone that you're directly competing with. It has nothing. It's nothing to do with that. You need to be a mentor regardless. So to me, if this is the case, you don't want to mentor Malik Willis. That's fine, Ryan Tannehill. You are no longer a leader on the Tennessee Titans, in my opinion. So, but you choose your words. He's a grown ass adult. He's an NFL player. He can do what he wants. So if he chooses that, it is what it is. So, so mine is very much negative as well. And I got to say, like, I hope this changes in the future. And I don't know if it's gotten worse over the years. I think it might have. So obviously I got to watch the draft end to end, per I do usually, every single year. The first round, yes, we understand. You're making a big deal, coming on stage, announcing every single player. Is it exhausting by the time the 32nd person's announced? Absolutely. But you go through it because it's a tradition. You want to see everyone. I am just asking and begging and pleading, and I think a lot of other people too, when we get to the second round, I think we're done with the long announcing, the things like that. I love the 4th to 7th round where it's just pulled up on screen. There's things going on. Bing, bing, bing. Even the third round gets a little faster. The second round, I'm over it. And the reason why I'm over it is because this year, there was so much like non-consistent like people coming up on stage. Sometimes you have people coming up for organizations, where it's, fundraisers and things like that. Oh, a former player is raising money for this. Cool. I love that. Tell us about it. I'd love to hear about it. Give me the pick. The Colts stands out in my mind. They had these TikTok kids. They were comedians.
Oh, hell no.
These kids, Katie, were 16 years old.
No, we don't need that. We don't need that.
They did the pick for the Colts, and they're comedians, apparently. They put on a show. They had the guy.
No, we don't need that.
Yeah, so that took an hour.
They did.
They had the guy for the Minnesota Vikings. I didn't even know he played in the NFL. He's the head coach on Blue Mountain State, the TV show. He's an actor. He played for the Vikings. He did their pick. Katie, they had to take him off the stage. He took 35 minutes.
He was lingering.
Someone whispered in here.
They got to play that music.
They did.
Oscars.
The girl literally came on stage and goes, just say the name and we're going to get off stage. Blatantly to him. It was to me, and there were so many other teams where the pick person didn't make any sense. The Giants had Amani Toomer. That makes sense. He's a former New York Giants. And guess what? He did it in 3 seconds. Bang, bang, boom.
On the stage and said, this is the pick. With this pick, the Giants take.
Honestly, you guys have to revisit the second round because, again, I don't need to stay up again till midnight for 2 rounds again on a Friday night. Listen, you can let me stay up till midnight to watch a football game. I do not give a shit on to stay up till midnight because you wanted to make a show out of this. Honestly, you can get X amount of rounds done in one day on Saturday. Make it a 2-day event then. Make the first round your big glamour, the spotlight, the everything, whatever. 2 through 7, I'm done with the glitz and glamour and on day 2 again. So that's my get it off my chest. A lot of people on, on Twitter agreed with me. It's too much at this point. So
I agree with you, girl. I'm there.
We're over it.
Well, wow. Another draft in the books, another draft review by the real football fans of New Jersey. Looking forward to the New York Giants' new draft class, our new players. I think they're going to be great. Very excited for that. But as far as things that you can also be excited for this week, do not miss the Real Housewives of Atlanta on Sunday at 8 p.m., Real Housewives of New Jersey on Tuesday at 8, and Real Housewives of Beverly Hills season 12 premiere 1 week away. And then also in the world of NFL, if you thought the excitement was going to be over, obviously we just learned about the international games. I'm sure this will break earlier than it's supposed to.
Probably.
But the NFL schedule release is set 8 days from today. So I can't wait to break that down, see what that looks like. Still so many things to be excited about and to go over. So make sure you continue to stick with us week after week because we're going to give you the goods.
The goody good goods. All right.
We'll catch you then.
Thank you guys. As always, we'll see you next time.
Good night.